I have fashioned it around the valleys and the mountains because I thought it is really a valuable subject that if we understand it, we can better cope with it. I'm going to start as a musician because I am a musician. Now, the highs, the valleys, and the mountains follow what we call a sinusoidal curve. Now, a sinusoidal curve in musical terms is when you have a musical note, go ah, okay, that follows a straight line, but there are vibrations going above and below the desired pitch. Now, you are perfectly in tune when the highs and the lows balance, average out to have it go straight down the middle, the average of it, okay?
That's what that thing in Fantasia is about.
Yes, here it is. I made just a little diagram of the sinusoidal curve. Now notice on a sinusoidal curve, the high is as high as the low. They have the same basic dimensions. You don't have the high going just a little bit higher and then the low way down, otherwise you're off pitch. Okay, so what you want is to be on pitch. The highs and the lows have to add up. Now, it's been my experience, personal and watching people, that when we first become Christians, okay, the sinusoidal curve is quite high and quite low. This can be especially disconcerting because we feel like, okay, love those mountaintop experiences and the exhilaration and the, God, I can see stuff and this is amazing. And then you get down in the bottom, I don't even hear God. I have no idea where are you, what is going on. It could be really, really upsetting to have that. So I wanted to just have us do a walk through the scriptures and see some of our great men and women of God and what kind of highs and lows that they went to and how they dealt with it, because how they dealt with it is where the real meat is in this, okay?
There's some really good ones in this.
Listen. I could have picked almost anyone in the Bible for this one. There's so much.
I'm guessing there's two in my head and I'm thinking, I wonder if you'll choose those two.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Who do you
No, let's go.
Elijah?
Almost did.
Guess. And David would be the
Okay, now those two were chosen, but...
Another one.
New Testament.
Oh, New Testament.
Okay, wait.
Peter?
Yes,
Peter's the
Peter.
obvious
Yes,
one,
Peter.
isn't it?
Okay, now, I'm going to start with Joseph. Because if ever there was a roller coaster ride, it's Joseph. Now, I'm not going to start with the scriptures yet. We'll do the scriptures with the next example. But this one, I'll just do you a little hit parade here. First of all, he has favor with his father, and his father makes him a multicolored coat, which was hyper, mega, super expensive for the time. Anything that had colors was really very, very expensive. So, favor with dad. He's on the mountain. He's loved above his brothers and all this. And then he's sold into slavery. Boy, how low can you go? Now then he is in the slave market. Potiphar finds him and takes him. Now this is a really big blessing because Potiphar is a just man. He's a fair man. And Potiphar sees how intelligent and how God's hand is on him to profit everything that he does, so he puts him in charge of the whole house. But
I don't think he did that initially,
though. No, he had to earn it. Yeah, I understand that. But then Potiphar's wife comes in and puts the make on him, and he says, "Look, I can't sin against God and against the master of this house. How do you expect me to do that?" So then his wife gets hacked off and goes, "Oh well, this Hebrew tried to molest me and everything." And of course, Potiphar, what's he going to do? He's got to live with his wife. He doesn't have to live with his servant. So he has him jailed. In Potiphar's house, he was on the mountain. He was in charge of everything, making things prosper. Wonderful stuff. But then the wife comes in, and now Joseph is in the valley again. He's in prison. It has been theorized for 13 years.
13?
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Now, even in the prison... Now, one thing we need to see is that God's hand of favor on someone is something that will just follow you everywhere you go.
Imagine how that would work on you.
Ooh, yes.
13
We
years
talked about that this morning.
and innocent.
Mm.
You are going to have,
there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of bitterness.
Okay, I'm going to hit that.
Actually, theorizing that when he was chucked into the pit by his brothers, he was probably about 13 years old.
Probably.
So now he's in jail for another 13 years.
Probably
That's still hard.
mid-20s.
He's in his mid to late 20s now.
Yeah. Okay, now then, so he's in the prison now. Okay, and he everything that he does prospers. So even the jailer puts him in charge of everything. Everything, just the only thing that he's subordinate to the jailer, but everything else, he runs the prison. So then we have Pharaoh's dream. Nobody can interpret Pharaoh's dream. But wait a minute. There's this Hebrew, I remember, he prophesied about the cupbearer, the king's cupbearer, and how he would be reinstated, and then the baker, how he would be hung. And it happened exactly as he said. These dreams were interpreted, and they were interpreted correctly. So Pharaoh goes and gets this good-looking Hebrew fellow from the prison, has him shaved and put proper garments on.
Until they took him out and shaved him.
Well, yeah, okay. So then,
in jail, I doubt that he'd had a bath.
so then Joseph correctly interprets his dream. It witnesses to Pharaoh, this is exactly right, what this man's saying. And then not only does Joseph interpret the dream, but he also then proposes solutions. Okay, in the same breath, he says, okay, Pharaoh, what you need to do is you need to put aside certain elements so that during the 7 years of plenty, you can stockpile all kinds of things of Lebensmittel, food things.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that in God's world, tithing is 10%. In man's world, it's 20%.
And that's what he does. 20%. It's a fifth. Okay. Yeah, it is. That's interesting, isn't it? So then.
I don't know if it has any significance.
So then he says, Pharaoh says, okay, I can see that there's the wisdom of the gods. He says, he's not really knowing what he's saying, but I can see that the wisdom of the gods is in you. You take over the half of the kingdom. The only one who you will answer to is me. So here we have the largest known kingdom of the world. I say known because I personally believe that the Chinese kingdoms were every bit as big, but they are not as historically notated.
I think they were probably bigger even.
Probably, but we don't know because they didn't have a way of noting it down and everything. But anyway, so here he is, second in command of the biggest empire in the known world. Very, very powerful, okay? So now here he is on the mountain again, right? He's out of the valley, he's in the mountain. Now, then he sees the most painful thing that could possibly happen to him. He sees his brothers that sold him into slavery. And I like what you said just a moment ago, because yes, he did struggle with forgiveness. He looked at them and he said, oh my God, there they are. Here's these guys that did this to me. I got sold into slavery. I spent 13 years in a dank prison.
You see,
My.
They say that the closer you are to somebody, the greater the offence.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, for example, had it been total strangers that had thrown him in that pit,
Wouldn't have been
sold him
problem.
into slavery,
Yeah.
he would have got over it.
So did
But
he,
the fact it was his loved ones.
was he probably not more offended by his closer brothers? Like, wasn't he closer to, was it Benjamin?
Yes,
That was
yes,
his
he had a
older-
special
so
love
was
for
he
Benjamin,
not,
yes.
So was he not probably more offended by
Yeah.
his closer brothers than the ones that
Could have been.
was
Well,
supposed to? Because jealousy
there's-
got
there's-
between
there's
them,
an
so he wasn't
interesting-
supposed to.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thought there.
Brother Benjamin was when it happened.
Yeah, because if Joseph was say hypothetically 13 years old,
Yeah.
Benjamin has to be at least
10-ish.
3 or 4 years younger.
I would have thought so.
Because Rachel struggled to conceive,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Benjamin was born, she had a really hard labour and she died on the journey.
That's right.
But he was close. Was it Reuben that knew what they were doing?
Yeah.
and planned
Yes,
to go
and
back?
Yeah.
yeah, there was
So he
resistance
close
to their
some
actions.
brothers, Yes.
Now also here he is in
the
the
older one must have been a good bit older though,
Yeah.
because it had taken. You know, she'd rubbed the salt in the wound because it had taken her so long to conceive.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's good.
Leah had conceived instantly.
Yes.
Yeah. She had babies very, very easily.
So the
Yeah,
oldest
because-
must have been a good, decent age.
Yeah.
Because I think, in fact, the first 3 or 4 were older,
Mm-hmm.
and they all came from Leah and her maid.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Bilhah or something. Yeah. So that's
And when he was the second time round, he would have just been sorry, please excuse my term, a hormonal teenager.
nothing wrong with that. That's basically what it is.
And the fact that he said no a massive,
Yeah.
a big thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he was punished for it.
Yeah.
So here we see that the brothers that caused all the trouble deeply hurt him. There he is in the valley. And then seeing his brothers repent and seeing that his father came. He got to see his father again. There's the mountain, okay? Now, the things that I extrapolated from this is one, he saw God even in the despicable actions of his brothers. He saw God's plan. In chapter 45, he says, you meant it for evil for me, but God engineered this because there was going to be a need to keep you guys alive. And this was how God did it. So don't blame yourselves for this, okay? Very gracious, isn't it? Now, this is important. He didn't take revenge when he was on the mountain. Okay, he could have. I had a real struggle with this once. I'll tell you about it. I had a very, very strong persecution in Zimbabwe to where sometimes my life was in danger. And it was a real cataclysm in the village. There were those who were resolutely for me, would have died for me, but the majority of them wanted to see me dead. It was a really terrible situation. Now then, well, it's a long story, but anyway, I got a phone call from the Harare Tribune. Mr. Gentis, we hear that there are some strange goings on in Mashonaland Central, and you're at the center of it. We will keep your name completely out of the formula if you just allow us to interview you, and you can tell us the truth.
If you really thought about it, the chance, when you consider the size of Bindura, was smaller than Kirkmichael.
Yeah, no way.
Keep his name out of it?
No way.
Chance.
That was bigger than Kirkmichael, but not much. So anyway, then the first thing I did was I went to a very dear, trusted friend of mine, and I said, let's pray. I said, this is what I have been offered. And he says to me, Larry, be absolutely and completely careful what you do right now, because this is going to determine the turning point in your life.
Interestingly, this guy who gave him this advice was himself a reporter.
Yes, he was a cameraman for ZBC TV. So, and I spent hours and hours and hours with this dear man. So anyway, I prayed over it, and then I phoned the people. You know, it was very tempting though, because I said to myself, you know what? I can have a lot of you right now. All I have to do is tell the truth, and you people will rot in jail for the rest of your days. And damn you, you actually what do you call that? You merit it. You deserve it. Because these people were just flat out evil. They were dishonest. They were cheating, lying. It was a horrible situation. And what we did, Judy and I, is we exposed it. So
well, you exposed it.
Yeah, you had your hand in it too. You were a little bit more behind the scenes than I was. I was the public face of it, but you're the one you also saw some things. So anyway, I phoned him back and I said, sir, the problem is this. The regional director for education instructed me, do not talk to the press. So if I was to talk to you, I would be going against the laws of man. He specifically told me not to, and no good result can come from my disobedience. And also I said, I think I would be taking revenge. And so I refused to take revenge, but I wanted to. See, because I've already told you many times, there's two basic types of characters in life. There's pastoral, there's warrior. I'm a warrior. I don't take it kindly when someone messes with me, or when someone messes with someone that I love. I'm not a nice person when people do that. So, and that's been probably one of my biggest struggles in my faith, has been I can't fight the way I used to fight. I have to fight with love and prayer. You see, where you before. I'd rev them up. I would.
Known you well enough, or in enough circumstances to have known that.
Well, put it this way, when he was young, he was in jail a lot because he was never afraid of beating up the big guy.
No, I wasn't. I was known as the giant killer. So anyway, that was something where I can so appreciate Joseph's struggle. That he, I mean, there it was. All you have to do is just say one finger, and these guys are toast. And they sold you into slavery. They took your childhood from you and your teenage years. They had such a horrible, and your own brothers. but that would be a tough one for me. But Joseph is on the mountain now. He's second in command of the entire kingdom of Egypt.
Tough normally,
Yeah.
but even more so because he was in such a favored position with such a promising future.
Exactly. So when he's on the mountain, he did not take revenge when he could have. Now, I could have taken revenge, and I could justify it so easily. All I have to do is tell the truth. But you know what? There's more behind it than just telling the truth. There's also the spirit behind it. There's the motivation. There's the why you do what you do and what you expect to happen. Now let's go. Now all I'm given here is kind of a snapshot of the subject, okay? The mountains and the valleys. Because we're all going to have the mountains. We're all going to have the valleys. But the question I think that's on all of our minds is, what do we do in the valleys? When we're on the mountaintops, come on, we just feel invincible. We feel like I can see my God and he's talking to me all the time and things are moving well. And then when we get to the valleys, we go, oh God, I don't even feel like a Christian. Is it only me? Sorry, but okay, it's only me. I could accept that. It's all right. It's all right.
That's when you get the, does God love me?
Yeah.
Have I done something wrong? Or, all of the self-condemnation comes in. Yeah.
So let's go to now. Peter, as you brought up, Peter knew something about this. Now we're only going to take a small snapshot of Peter, because Peter's life was just like Joseph. It was up and down and up and down, and where Jesus says go on the side of the lake and fish. He's, I ain't want to go and fish anymore. I fished all night, didn't catch nothing. And then he says, because you tell me to, I'll go out and do it. So he comes back and he gets the boat so full of fish that he can't even get the boat into port, and the boat is cracking and everything, and he looks and he goes, oh my word, I've got God in front of me. And what did I do that last night when I caught nothing? And and he says, go away from me, I'm just a sinful man. And then he says, okay, Jesus is going to the cross, and he says, I'll go and die with you. And Jesus says, you know what, you're going to say 3 times this night that you don't even know me. And then I think it's Luke's account, where he says, then Jesus, when he betrayed him for the when he denounced him, not denounced, but when he denied that he knew him for the 3rd time, he looks at Jesus and he sees his eyes, and you can see that electric connection there, and he just weeps bitterly, it said, and just ran away. So Peter had the huge highs and the huge lows, and in this particular part, Matthew 16. We'll go from 13 to 16, 13 to 19.
When Jesus came to the region of
Caesar Philippi.
Thank you.
No worries.
He asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" "Well," they replied, "some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets." Then he asked them, "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "You are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. Now I say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and all the powers of hell will not conquer it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you lock on earth will be locked in heaven, and whatever you open on earth will be opened in heaven."
So is Peter on the mountain here? Huh? Jesus says, I'm going to give you the responsibility for the entire New Testament church. The keys of heaven are in your pocket. Peter's on a roll. Huh? He is moving. He's on the top, the highest pinnacle, because he had that revelation. Jesus says, well, you didn't get that revealed to you by people. God put that message right in you, okay? So Peter's feeling good now. He's going, oh, wow, this is very cool. Yeah. I mean, you know how you feel when someone you love and they look at it and they really make you feel good by telling you something that shows how much you're worth, right? You feel good. It's a wonderful thing. So now let's go let's read 21 to 23.
From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on that and on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, Far be it from you, Lord, this shall never happen to you. But he turned and he said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man.
So
He's
here-
just gone flashing like that.
I know. Mayday, mayday. Oh my goodness. So here's Peter up on the mountain. Jesus says, talk to me that way. And then suddenly he says, you get that devil out of you.
It's crushed.
And he goes, oh, help.
It's a bit of whiplash.
Yeah. I mean, one minute he's the top of the pinnacle. And then the next he's down wallowing in the mud
And
with
that's
his
what-
face in it, you know. And that's
Same
like,
day even?
that's about like an hour later.
Was
Now-
that the same day even?
I think it was, but now keep in mind that Jesus, it would not have been appropriate for him to start to reveal what God's plan was until it was revealed to his disciples what his identity was.
Okay, so
You
it
see?
could have been hours or days or even weeks after.
Well, from that time on, yeah. So it could have been fluid time-wise, but it wouldn't have been appropriate for Jesus to unfold his plan until that the revelation of his identity came through. Okay. So
You can understand why he felt that he was justified to take Jesus aside and say, hey, you know.
no, you're not going to get it. We're not
you know,
having that.
because
I'm your protector
I'm
now.
Too, I see.
Yeah.
I'm important here.
Yeah.
I can say this.
I
So-
just feel for me.
So I put, at this moment, Jesus begins to tell his disciples about God's master plan for salvation, involving his death and his resurrection. Peter objects, thinking to protect and spare his Savior. Jesus is quick to call him out and banish the satanic influence that overtook him. Peter is in the valley. Now, Peter follows the same ideas as Joseph with the very high, very low, and I just love Peter. I did a whole teaching on that in Italy once. It was, really enjoyed it because I thought my take on it was, as an employer, would I hire Peter? Not even. No, he betrays his master. He's disobedient. He's a brawler. I mean, there's everything to say. I don't want that guy, you know, in any kind of responsible position in my, you know, in my company. But Jesus says, no, this guy's very special. I'm going to use that good brawler quality that he has. I'm going to use the fact that although he gets it wrong, he tries, and his heart is to do right. Now, what was his heart there? His heart was saying, okay, Jesus, I can't let this happen to you because I love you. He knew that. But of course, Peter is not seeing in the Spirit. He's seeing according to the old self. Now, I told you about my past a little bit, about how I also have to still think differently with regards to conflictual situations. I can't handle them the way I used to handle them. And I learned that lesson that Judy so lovingly brought up, where I thumped a guy. Well, okay, that I haven't done it since. Don't think I haven't wanted to. I have. But I don't, because I now know God deals with these things. And when God deals with them, he leaves the door open for the person that's done the offense. He even corrects them completely and thoroughly, but the door is still open for them to come into the grace of God as well, you see. And me? Oh, no, man, I'll just stump him and leave him bleeding. Huh? You did that, that's what you get. Do it again, you get more of the same. I know I'm not a nice man sometimes. I'm not. But these things go through my mind, but this is where the Spirit has to overcome the flesh, has to overcome the carnal thinking, you see. And it's a constant thing. It never really stops. We always have to use these checks and balances. Now, some observations. Even though Peter got it wrong, time after time, he always dusted himself off and picked himself back up and tried again. He never just ran away, okay?
I think I would have run away just being told that I was in charge of the church.
I was thinking that too. I went, whoa, wait a minute, that's
That's a responsibility.
kind of big. Yeah, so
Let's go back and catch some
Now,
fish, please.
this is
Well,
where Judas
but,
failed.
You know, from his perspective, they were 12 companions.
Yeah.
That was never going to get much bigger than that, was it? Do you know what I mean?
Okay, okay. I'm not sure. That's interesting
In
point.
his head, no. Because, I mean, they've been walking around with Jesus for 12 years, and yeah, they're crowd gatherers, but the crowds come and
3
go.
years.
And then, you know what? it's never going to be more than me and my mate.
Well,
But
I
they were
would.
also hounded by the people.
I would say that, except for the word traveled all the way up to Sidon and Tyre, and all the way down to the Arabah, and all the way over. The scope of Jesus, even during the time he lived, if you look at it, huge geographical swaths of territory. Huge. It wasn't just a little. This
No,
man
but-
shook the whole earth.
Yeah, no, but
In those
they
3
only
years.
went as far as they could walk.
Yes, but people were coming from places, what I'm trying to say. So, he simply didn't understand the things of the Spirit, Peter didn't, but he was willing to learn. And he always dusted himself off and picked himself up.
Stay there.
Yeah, as long as we don't stay there. Also, another thing is when we're in the valley, just some little practical things. When we're in the valley, know that you are not going to stay in the valley. The valley is a place of learning. It's a place of acquiring more. And that's the only place you're going to get it. You're not going to acquire more on the mountaintop. You're going to acquire more in the valley. That's where you learn the great lessons of life. I've heard some sermons where the man says, bless God for his valleys. Bless God for his bad times, because that is the crucible of growth in Christ. That's
Think
where you...
about it this way. Mountain. Rain comes down. Who's on the mountain? What happens to the on the topsoil? Where does it go?
Down in the valley. That's why valleys are so fertile.
Valleys are fertile.
Yeah.
They have shade, they have warmth, they have darkness, but they also have sunlight. But the topsoil from the mountaintops goes down into the valley, which then enables you to have the strength to climb up the next peak.
Come on.
It is unpleasant, but it is edifying.
Unfortunately, it's important.
Okay.
It's fruitful.
Yeah, and what season are we in? Okay, I know that you guys are on the upswing now. The bottom, it has bottomed out. It's not going to get worse now, okay? You're coming up. But those bottomed out places were pretty bad places, I know. But it's coming up. And I think that what we need to hold on to is you are going up. God is now elevating you. He is taking you out of it. Okay, we've learned all kinds of lessons about the things that happened in the valley, why they happened. We also maybe see what we should have done, might have done, would have done, I don't know, but we can play that game and go around that tree for ages, and it doesn't really change anything. That's not necessarily where the great lessons are.
Look at where they went around and round and round the mountain. That's something we need to be wary of too.
Yeah, the Israelites, yeah.
Yes.
Why did they do that? Because their heart was not conducive to getting out of the valley. You see, that's what we have to do, is guard our hearts and know that that valley is going to end, but the only way it's going to end is because you belong to God and you're holding on to Him. You can't climb your way out. There's no way you can do that, but He's going to lift you out, and He will lift you out in the perfection of His timing, you see.
That's an interesting picture. I'm thinking of Joseph.
Go.
His brothers chucked him into a hole that was too deep for him to climb out of physically.
Good.
Now, who was it who pulled him out? Interestingly.
It was the slaves, the slave traders.
It was the slave traders.
Yes.
It was the Ishmaelites.
Yeah.
Okay, the baddies pulled him out of its hole, which put him into a place which was profitable to them, but they had no idea how profitable it was going to be to him, because they, the baddies, pulled him out.
Well, and the entire world changed because of Joseph being in that valley, being in that hole that his brothers threw him in. The face of the entire earth changed because of that. Whole nations were restored. Israel became a stronger nation because of what Joseph did. And if he had not done it, then there would have been, the nation of Israel would have perished. There was like a famine for 7 years. My word, we've seen what famine can do. It's terrible. We had 2 years without a drop of rain in Zim once. My goodness, everything dying all around you. It was awful. We also had cholera epidemics. Oh my word. and you think you're never going to see the end of it. But you see, the whole face of the world changed because of what God did there. And I think we need to see God in it. God, what are you doing in this? What is it that you need me to take on board for this? Another thing that we can do in the valley is we can say one simple phrase. I hope it doesn't sound trite, but my future looks good. Because my eternity is signed, sealed, and delivered forever. So yes, I'm going to have some problems in this body. It's getting older, or I might even be killed or something. There's calamities that happen all over. But my future is the best future that could possibly ever be. Because Jesus is my Savior, you see. And because I have Him in my heart, I am going to be with Him for eternity. So that valley definitely is never going to stay a valley.